Hi everyone, it's Sunday, June 14th, time for another HideNet Week in Review. I'm Vera Dordick. So across the regions of the Hide market, everything was relatively unchanged last week with the exception of Europe where the situation is very complicated. Clearly, the economic recovery from the effects of the pandemic is on a slow track, and this is complicating things for hides and leather. Currently, China is the main buyer in the market since they're several months ahead of other global regions, and they're the only buyer in some cases. So we'll start with the U.S. again this week, where packers held prices mainly steady. With regard to sales of regular weight heavy Texas steers, they were unchanged, with levels between $16 and $17 for seasonal weights. One of the most surprising bits of news in the U.S. market last week was the export sales total, which was a whopping 893,000. And of that total, 757,800 pieces were salted hides. Part of the surprise with the high number was because no one had claimed to have a blockbuster week of sales the previous week. Ultimately, most sources said that it was likely some of those were a case of late reporting of sales along with resales. Once again, China accounted for 94% of the rawhide sales last week. With regard to combined shipments, they were up 9% at 522,400. Of course, this is an improvement, but it's still below where some people feel the figure should be given the healthy sales this spring. Turning to Europe, editor Andrea Guolo tells us from Italy that it was a complicated week because many tanneries are actually stopping production due to a lack of orders, and the hides purchased in the past few months are not being delivered. This is reverberating throughout the supply chain, and Andrea details the effects in more detail, and he lays out what the sector thinks is a realistic time frame for a return to better business and a start of a recovery. With regard to British and Irish ox, he says that Chinese customers are shopping again. Prices are theoretically the same as last week, with the 36 plus British ox at 70 cents in sterling and Irish ox at 65 cents as well. But buyers have some bargaining power, so there have been discounts in the sales that were concluded. European bulls, which had been in decline, saw prices stabilize, but this certainly was not because of any improvement in the automotive sector. Northern German bulls remained steady at 60 cents in euros per kilo, but some other origins did see prices ease a bit. This week, we take a look at this chart for French bulls, which shows they're decreasing. Heavy hides from central France are selling at 65 cents per kilo, but some have popped up to 70 cents for materials that are intended for furniture and cars. Unfortunately, in Europe, the cow sector did not fare any better either, with prices on many origins declining further. Some important origins are already at their historic lows, so the market is still bearish for cows. From South America, editor Ronald Guiel reports from Brazil that the price of fresh hides added 1 cent in reals to sell at 48 cents per kilo. Brazilian exporters complain that the exchange rate with the dollar is still hurting the market. However, TR1 remains steady at 50 cents per square foot. Not surprisingly, given the pandemic, the news reports out of Brazil were not positive this week. Maize, leather, and hide exports hit their lowest monthly total since the year 2000, down by nearly half in value compared to May 2019 and down by more than 1/3 in volume. In addition, Brazilian footwear exports dropped 66% in May. In other news from Latin America, a tannery in Argentina had its activities suspended over environmental issues. Colombia's industrial production fell to record lows in April, and retail sales in footwear and leather goods there fell by 90.7%. And last but certainly not least, in Mexico, it has been reported that due to the coronavirus, as much as 3% of the footwear companies in Guanajuato could close permanently. So that's all the news we have for today. Until next week, good night from HideNet.